Singapore's highly anticipated economic refresh takes its next step, setting out 8 key shifts aimed at securing growth and creating good jobs for Singaporeans. The country's Economic Strategy Review Committee submits recommendations to guide the country's next phase. In coming up with the recommendations, the committee engaged more than 7,700 stakeholders, including unions, businesses and workers. Some priorities include sharpening Singapore's value proposition, boosting agility and building resilience against future shocks.
We are deeply connected to the global economy. That connectivity gives us opportunities, but it also exposes us to volatility. This is why ESR matters. It is not simply a response to immediate challenges. It is about how Singapore positions itself for the longer term to stay competitive, create good jobs, and remain relevant in a more fragmented, contested, and fast-changing world.
The first 2 groups of recommendations call for Singapore to take bolder bets, build global leadership in areas of strength, attract and anchor leading industries. They also push for a faster economy-wide adoption of AI to position Singapore as a global leader in such solutions. Another calls for a more dynamic enterprise ecosystem so that more Singapore-based companies can start, scale and succeed globally. This means helping firms with new ideas and business models to emerge or grow quickly, while less competitive ones are able to restructure or exit. Because of these moves, more good jobs can be created. The recommendations call for earlier intervention to support workers facing retrenchment, investment in future-ready skills, while raising job quality in AI-resilient sectors like healthcare and early childhood. But even as Singapore strives to become a hub for the world, the committee highlights that it cannot be over-reliant on other countries. Building resilience to mitigate critical supply chains vulnerabilities, now a major focus as the global environment becomes more contested. In a social media post, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says the government supports the ESR's broad strategies and direction. He adds that the task ahead is to translate these directions into concrete actions. The ESR committee says this list of recommendations is not a blueprint, but shifts that government can take on over the next 5 to 10 years through policy changes or new projects. It points to the need to continue building Singapore's global leadership and scale AI adoption across the economy. Beatrice with more.
A pulse check at a traditional Chinese medicine clinic may help you diagnose certain symptoms. But what if the centre is closed? To answer these questions round the clock, local firm Yongkang TCM deployed a chatbot. So far, it's seen a 60% increase in customer engagement and a 20% rise in revenue.
When we ask a certain question to a business, we want the answer very quickly. So if we wait 20-30 minutes for our answer, it actually takes away, I don't have the trust in this business anymore, which is why, when we have this AI chatbot, customer actually feels more satisfied.
Tapping such tools to transform businesses is an example of what the ESR committee is calling for. Others include working with trade associations and chambers to scale up AI adoption across the economy and updating rules to govern the tech. The key idea here is trust. Singapore aims to position itself as a hub where AI solutions are developed, tested and deployed at scale. This will strengthen its reputation as a reliable base for global businesses, attract leading industries and create new areas of growth for the economy.
We also need to make bold bets in new areas such as quantum technologies and space, building on what we already do well in adjacent sectors like semiconductors, advanced manufacturing, and aerospace. The aim is simple. We don't want to just be in the supply chain. We want to be the part of the supply chain that nobody can afford to take out.
Some ideas to entrench such investments are to sharpen the current investment promotion approach and strengthen coordination with industry and researchers.
These entities are looking to form strategic partnerships within the broader ecosystem differently. And I think this is where Singapore can also pay attention to on where might these strategic relationships be formed? How can Singapore play a role in enabling these strategic partnerships? When we talk about anchoring industry, it's not about just any one company. It is these strategic relationships that can make a difference.
This approach has already helped cement Singapore's role in the global semiconductor value chain. Now, the goal is to replicate that success in new industries and secure its competitive edge for the future.
As the global economic landscape evolves, the committee says the government should provide greater support for firms to restructure, pivot or exit. At the same time, open up more funding streams to allow new ideas and business models grow quickly. Chok reports.
After 20 years making meat products in Woodlands, this factory is moving across the causeway to cut costs. The new facility will have 3 times the capacity, producing cold cuts, sausages and canned goods, while continuing to serve Singapore's halal market.
As a food manufacturing company based here in Singapore, the rising costs for labor and entirely the overall operational costs is not very sustainable in the long term. Therefore, migrating the production facility out of Singapore would make more sense for the entire business growth.
It's efforts like this that Singapore wants more firms to embark on in order to stay competitive. The committee says more support should be given to help companies identify transition plans early. This could come in the form of restructuring, offshoring operations, and even pursuing mergers. The committee says such renewal is part of a healthy economy, which redeploys capital and talent to where they create the most value. For instance, towards helping startups scale and expanding access to growth stage funding.
Growth capital is already available in Singapore, but we believe that it should come in a diversity of forms, not just venture capital, but also including things like venture debt, private credit, and for later stage companies, even access to public markets through SGX. We think that all those avenues for capital are important because the life cycle of a company goes all the way from small to big, and there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all capital solution in reality.
Other measures include anchoring future industry leaders in Singapore and boosting support for firms to go abroad.
At the same time, we must be attractive to enterprises that want to look for opportunities. And if they look around the world, why would they choose a small little island at the tip of the Malaysian archipelago? We have to continue to be attractive, open, and to be accessible to capital, to talent, to space, and the likes.
With these, it's hoped that Singapore can move from being a landing pad to a launch pad for businesses.